Venus is moving through the matchmaking placement. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Barista Witch channel. I am your host, Misha, and today we are getting into Venus for the month of August 2024 and all that she is going to be doing, how it's going to affect your love life. Mercury retrograde gets involved, lots of tea to spill, lots of cosmic tea to spill. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn your notification bell on so you know whenever a new freshly brewed pot of cosmic tea is waiting for you. So first and foremost, Venus. Who is she? What does she represent? Venus is one of the inner planets of our solar system, and Venus is associated with sex and love, relationship, artistry, beauty, aesthetics, harmony, peace, union, the creative arts, luxury, money, finding a spouse, romantic relationships, being naughty, compromise, affection, and aesthetics, how we take care of ourselves, what we put on our bodies, jewels, gemstones, clothes, artisanal shit like that. And because Venus rules all aspects of desire, Venus reveals the things in our life that we value. So wherever Venus goes, we see what we value. Wherever Venus goes, we see not just the emotional tie to that value, but also the financial tie to that value, because Venus is associated with money. Venus rules the color white, so typically on Fridays, which are ruled by Venus, I wear white. It's recommended to wear white so that you become a bit more in tune with Venus. Also recommended to get married on a Friday to embody Venus, to evoke that Venusian energy for your union. All of those lovely qualities will be invoked. Don't get married on a Saturday. That's ruled by Saturn, a planet of separation and loss. So Venus is the planet of love and relationships and indicates how we relate to others and how we're able to express and receive affection. So depending on where Venus is in your birth chart, that will give you a clear-cut view as to how you give love and affection, and more importantly, I think how you receive love, because it's reciprocal. Venus moves pretty quickly and she shifts from one constellation to the next approximately once every 25 days. And Venus is always within 2 signs of the sun, so there is a tendency sometimes for Venus to get so close that it becomes combust or eclipse, which then can create all sorts of issues with power and authority and feeling overshadowed and feeling like your romantic partner may be overlooking you. So the first thing that we need to discuss when discussing this transit is a term called Gandanta. And Venus will be Gandanta during this transit. And in order to understand Gandanta, let's first understand a Sanskrit term called a Sandhi. And Sandhis are defined as a zone of transition between 2 energies which retain their own individual characteristics. So Gandanta, which is what will be happening with Venus, is a type of Sandhi. It is a type or juncture point in which 2 individual things will retain their energy. A Gandanta point specifically occurs between the union of a water sign and a fire sign. And think about what happens when you mix water and fire. You usually get steam, you get some sort of heat, you get boiling, you get this intense transformative quality. Gandanta translates literally as not end or end of cheek, and they are considered to be inauspicious and not favorable in Jyotish or Vedic astrology. And this transit can be transformative for better or for worse, depending upon how you handle change, your relationship to change, what is exactly being changed. Because I mean, if it's a divorce, obviously not ideal or the perfect thing for you. So it really just depends on what your lens for change is in general, and then what your lens for change in this specific situation is. And in Jyotish, we say that a planet is weakened when it moves through this Gandanta juncture point. Think about when you boil something, it becomes soft, it becomes subtle, it becomes a bit more malleable. So yes, it is a weakened point, but it is a point to really pause, reflect, look at your relationship, especially since Venus is moving through this. This is a period where Venus, a planet of love and beauty and relationships, will be moving through a transformative space from emotional water Cancer to fiery, fierce, independent, confident Leo. And this may bring a period of instability where you may experience a seesaw of extremes. So as I say, this like super emotional, watery, lovey-dovey, intuitive nature of Cancer to just showmanship, boastfulness, loud, fiery, in your face Leo. Completely different energies. One is more passive, one is more active. And this seesaw of emotions can create a bit of a, what the fuck is going on? Especially when this occurs in our romantic life. Like, what the fuck? Attempting to fight the Gandanta knot will just be messy. Imagine trying to fight a pot of boiling water. Like, you obviously wouldn't do that. So just ride through it. What was it Churchill said? When you're going through hell, keep going. When you're going through the Gandanta knot, keep going. And Venus will be Gandanta from July 28th all the way through to August 2nd. So it's a little under a week of your relationship with relationships being put to the test. During this transit, Venus will be moving from Cancer to Leo for the constellations. And from a nakshatra perspective, it will be moving from Ashlesha to Magha, which we will get into. This transition will bring with it perhaps an uncertain phase in your relationship. Again, going from calm, intuitive, sensitive romance to just fire, passion, boom, boom, boom. It's like, oh, okay. I thought we were on the chill, slow burn, and now we've cranked the heat up a little bit. So this shift in your dynamic might seem a bit, what's happening over there? But just take it in stride. It will pass. It's not permanent. And this might bring an instance where you're unable to see an issue clearly because you're so clouded by the intensity of the situation that you are kind of in this window of steam. I like to call Gandanta steam when you mix fire and water. So your emotional thinking mind, your sense of reality as to what's going on with your relationship might be a bit clouded. And a sudden, unpredictable yet fated trait might surprise you, especially if you thought a relationship was going in one way and suddenly you see something else. You might be like, what the fuck is that? But it might come about in a way that you're like, you know what, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. It could work in my favor. You also may receive some unexpected offers surrounding love. And since you're already in this kind of transitional phase within your romantic life, don't jump the gun. Just kind of pause, lay your ducks in a row, see what you have, see what gifts have been laid at your feet, and then make a wise, concise choice when you're not in this clouded discernment state. And in terms of your creativity, since Venus also rules the creative arts and the performing arts, moving from intuitive, sensitive, kind of passive Cancer into the showy, dramatic Leo, your creative and artistic pursuits will take a bold, dramatic, extroverted turn for the better. You might see a bit more confidence come into play. You might feel like you're ready to perform or to take the stage, and that is a positive change that will happen once Venus is fully in Leo. During the Gandanta phase, you'll just start to feel this kind of like the water is boiling. Again, that meeting of water and fire. You'll feel this kind of tumultuous energy that is motivating you towards being more bold and more confident in your creative pursuits. And during this transit, Venus will be aspected by two malefics, Mars and Saturn. So Saturn currently is retrograde, which gives it a first tier strength. It makes it strong. And Saturn is sitting in its own sign of Aquarius. So it is doubly strong. So you have a doubly strong malefic Saturn aspecting Venus. A positive note of this is that Venus and Saturn are mutual friends in Vedic astrology. So there's no harm. There will be this sense of discipline, this sense of karma, this sense of fate and boundaries when it comes to your romantic relationships that you will get from Saturn because it provides those qualities: discipline, boundaries, karma, being strict with yourself, being strict with others. This will give you a really good push to just set boundaries of how do you want your relationship to go, especially since things are gonna be a bit tumultuous. But if someone maybe they're a bit clingy, or maybe they're not attached, maybe you're a bit clingy or not attached, like figure out what boundaries will work for you for relationships going forward. And with Mars aspecting here, Mars thankfully is stabilized by being with Jupiter, which is amazing. So Mars will have this kind of passion that's kind of infused with wisdom to your romantic relationships. So it's a pretty nice transit, even though typically when aspected by malefics, it's like holy motherfucking shit. But you will get boundaries and karma and discipline and passion all wrapped up into this kind of fated quality where it's like, is it a star-crossed lover kind of thing? But Saturn will give you the impetus to kind of pump the brakes. Interesting because Saturn is a very slow-moving planet while Mars is very fast. So there might be a tendency to wanna go, 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 but pump the brakes. So notice how that plays out in your dating life. And Saturn is also all about hard work, and you might even see yourself making a bit of a wise choice to choose work over play. So if someone wants to date you, if someone wants to take you out, but you have things to do, literally my life right now, you might choose a bit of work over play, which is totally fine. And Saturn, in the end, I would say go with what Saturn wants, because Saturn is all about karma and discipline, and then rewarding those who follow discipline and set boundaries and kind of go with positive karmas that you can generate for your life. And also, this transit of Venus moving into Leo will occur just a few days before Mercury goes retrograde. Did I tell you to like, subscribe, and all that jazz? Because a Mercury retrograde video is coming to you, don't you worry. But because Mercury rules communication and messages and technology and things of that nature, be mindful of miscommunication, of messages not being received, delayed messages, just some sort of communication fuckery. So let's talk about Leo. Did you know that Leo is one of the oldest constellations? It dates back to 4000 BCE when it was identified by ancient Mesopotamians because it actually resembles what the name is. The group of stars actually look like a crouching lion. And I mean, I look up sometimes and I'm like, okay, I guess that is a crab. But with the Leo constellation, it really does look like a crouching lion. So it's one of the first known identified constellations in our solar system. So Leo is a fire sign and it is a fixed sign. And a fixed sign embodies stability because it falls in the middle of the season. So if you look at the other list of fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, they all fall in the middle of the seasons in which they land. So there's a sense of stability, groundedness, like, okay, we're doing good here. Like things are stable, they're not changing, they're not in flux. So consequently, Leo being a fire sign, this fire is different from like a intense spark that is Aries. It's more of this slow burn warmth that's almost equated to like a campfire or a family earth. It's something that draws people in. It brings in a sense of community. It brings in a sense of feeling safe and secure, brings in this sense of union and joy and happiness. And with Leo, it has a flair of being this kind of glamorous earth, this kind of glamorous, think glamping 2.0, like the best fucking fire pit you've ever seen in your life with all the bells and whistles. Leo's energy is light, bright, warm, charismatic, and it's magnetizing in a way that draws people in. Think about whenever you know someone who's a Leo. They're very gregarious, they're very charming, and you just feel drawn into their fucking sphere. It's just part of their nature as Leos. So when Leos keep their egos in check, they can be incredibly affectionate. They can be playful and even have this incredible sense of humor. They're very gregarious and funny and just the life of the party. However, since Leos are performers by nature, because in the natural zodiac, Leo represents the 5th house of the performing arts and play, there's this sense of creativity and performative nature attached to Leo. Leos like to be the spotlight. They like to be the center of attention. They thrive in community theater. They thrive on Broadway. They thrive as actors and singers and performers. Side note, Miss Beyonce Giselle Knowles-Carter famously declares herself as a Virgo. She has a lot of planets in Virgo, but technically Miss Mama is a rising and sun Leo. And if you look at her face, she looks like a lion. She has this big mane of hair. She even played a lion in the live action Lion King adaptation. She is the quintessential performer. So since Leos love to be the center of attention and they love to be performers, the shadow side is that a Leo can roar its ugly head when they don't have an audience, so to speak, and they can become a bit attention seeking in this way and maybe even feel a sense of not being satisfied, feeling lonely, dejected, depressed, like dramatic. dramatic queens. We know this and we love them. But when a Leo isn't the center of attention, it's literally quite natural for them to be like, what the fuck? Excuse you, do you not see me standing here? And that's fair, because that's the way the cosmic tea brewed within them to make them that way, and we love them for it. But just be mindful that it doesn't spill over into arrogance, because that's when it's like, what if you didn't do this? Leo rules the 5th house of the natural zodiac, so it rules creativity, discernment, romance, love affairs, performing arts, and children. And this then reinforces that notion that Leos are playful, they're jovial, they're creative, they love to perform, they go with their natural base desires, they're really sexual by nature. Leos give you a good time. They love to put on a fucking show. So within Leo, we have 3 nakshatras. We're technically like 2 and some change. But Venus, when it moves through Leo, which takes up 30 degrees of the zodiac, it will move through 3 different nakshatras. Basically, in Vedic astrology, there are 27 additional constellations, or technically fixed stars, that the ancient seers in India would watch the moon move through, versus looking at the Greek system of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, blah, 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 blah. One nakshatra is 13 degrees and 20 minutes. And Magha takes up 0 degrees and 0 minutes and 13 degrees and 20 minutes of Leo. Magha is also known as the Mighty One or the Great One, and it is ruled by the planet Ketu. Its symbol is a royal throne room, so think extravagance. It's located in the main of the Leo constellation, whose main star is Regulus. So literally little king. There's this air of royalty, aristocracy, opulence, the finer things in life. Magha represents splendor, regality, royal, regal, elegant people, eminent people, people of high status. And with Magha comes a very, very deep respect for your elders, for your lineage, for your ancestry. There comes this deep respect of who you are, where you came from, paying homage to those who came before you, and just respect and love for your family. Since there is this association with ancestry and looking back at your lineage and where you come from, there is also this quality of clairvoyance, mediumship, shamanism, where you can kind of tap into the powers that be to connect and communicate with ancestors, with, you know, your spirit guides, with your ancestral line. It's pretty fucking cool. There's this ability to communicate with souls on the other side, not just your family members, but anyone, really. Any old thing that once was, that is no longer. And so there is this strong desire to kind of carry forward one's lineage, to kind of carry forward the family name, to really embrace your roots and where you come from, and to keep propelling that forward. And more commonly, someone with a placement in Magha is more likely to benefit from family, to benefit from financial gains, to kind of get some things that are passed down. So maybe you get a nice cushy job at the family company, maybe you get a nice inheritance, maybe you're patented in the will. These gifts from Magha, they're just a natural given. They are the expected pecking order. There's no sort of like sense of needing to return the gift. This sense of also feeling supported, of being supported, of seeing how you are supported. So depending on which house Magha falls into, depending on the chart, if it's in the 10th house, you can see support in career. If it's in the 5th house, you could perhaps see support from children. So depending on the placement in your natal chart and during this transit, you will see where the support comes into play. I will say a lot of Nepo babies have some very prominent Magha placements. The Cheeto in chief has a very prominent Magha placement. Even think of his stupid little slogan, Magha, the hat. I'm not saying it because of the algorithm, but like, how crazy is that? He doesn't even know that he's literally following his own fucking karmic nature. Astrology is crazy. Magha is associated with the throne room. Think about that stupid fucking gold toilet that he's like, this is my throne. So with Venus being here in Magha, you can expect the royal treatment from a lover, from a romantic partner. Think gifts, think being opulent, making you their king or queen. And there's a bit of reciprocity of you also treating your romantic partner like a king or a queen. And since this royal lens will be turned onto you, let the bouginess come out to play. Venus itself is already about luxury items, and then Venus being in a nakshatra of opulence and wealth and grandiose aristocracy, let the bouginess come out to play. If someone says you're being too much, they're not enough. This is quite literally the time to be a bougie bitch. And when it comes to friendships, so not any romantic relationships, just platonic friendships, maybe even some business partnership, this is the perfect time to let that Venusian charm, that kind of sensual efficacy in your relationships come out to play to make some really high profile, think people of eminence that Magha represents, to make connections with those types of people, to cultivate some influential and important contacts, to enjoy enhanced inner society types of dealings. So if you have any party invitations that were like, this isn't really my crowd, go. Because it might turn into your crowd. And honestly, why not keep elevating yourself, elevating your social circle? Have you heard that saying? It's like you are a culmination of the 5 people closest in your life. So honestly, take a look around of who you surround yourself with. But this is also a favorable time to honor your ancestors, to organize some sort of gathering or get together, some sort of celebration, party, maybe some sort of like family tradition that you want to honor. And again, Venus will be aspected by Saturn and Mars during this transit. So you will have this sense of discipline and focus, diligence, boundary setting, hard work from Saturn's influence, and this fiery, motivated passion that comes from Mars in terms of how you move about this little realm of opulence while you're in it. So even though Mars is there to give you this like passion, fire, Saturn will be there to pump the brakes, to give you a little bit of clarity, to make sure that you're seeing things in a more realistic karmic lens, to make sure you make some good decisions. And during this transit, a long distance relationship will be tested, but with the influence of disciplined and structured Saturn, those relationships that are meant to last, because again, Saturn is all about karma, they will last. This is all about testing those limits, testing those boundaries. And if you find that things are a bit thin and a bit brittle, now is the time to lavish your partner with some love, lavish your partner with some affection, give a little bit more without the expectation of getting anything in return, because that's all Magha is, spoiling without expecting anything in fucking return. And during this transit, Venus will be sandwiched between the hot sun and shadowy Ketu. Ketu is the south node of the moon. So you could be feeling a bit misunderstood and overlooked in a relationship. Just know that this sensation will pass. It may not be reflective of what's actually going on. It's more of this kind of internal state that you have to cope with and you have to figure out how to deal and how to manage. So during this transit, Venus will be conjunct with Mercury from July 31st all the way until August 22nd. So they will be together for quite a long time, almost a month. And that is why it is notable to discuss it, because Mercury is going to be going fucking through it in August. Again, subscribe because a Mercury retrograde video will be dropping next week when Mercury goes retrograde, and lots of things are happening with her. But thankfully, Mercury and Venus are mutual friends or besties. I call them like the clique of the 3 with Venus, Mercury, and Saturn. So this conjunction should bring some favorable results for the most part. Even though Mercury will be retrograde, the results should be pretty favorable. They shouldn't be too fucking wonky. Mercury being a planet of speech and communication, joined with Venus, a planet of love and desire and harmony and compassion. This union should bring some warmth to your relationships, and it should bring some harmonious speech that will bring about unity and the ability to find the right charm and wit for every interaction, whether that's romantic or platonic. It will be most beneficial in a romantic situation because it is paired with Venus, a planet of love and partnership. So use it, use the intellectual stimulus that you're gonna get from Mercury to be charismatic, witty, charming, flirtatious, quick on your feet. Since you're gonna have this infectious nature about you, be mindful that you're using this with discernment and you're not just unleashing yourself on everyone, because this could be perceived as flirting when you don't mean it to be flirting. And then you have a situation where you're like, pump the brakes. I am not interested in you in that capacity, especially with Mercury going retrograde during this transit. Miscommunication, misunderstanding will definitely be a factor. So when that comes with Venus, just make sure you are clear, you are concise, double check your messages before you send them. Make sure you're not sending it to the wrong person. Be very, 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 very clear. And if you on the inverse are unclear as what someone's intentions are, don't make any assumptions. Don't be shy, be bold. Again, Magha, this like bold, courageous, fiery, take charge kind of placement. Leo, this in your face, you know what you want, claim your self-worth placement. Ask for clarity. Use the union of Mercury to be very, very, very specific in what you want and what questions you need answered. Don't be afraid. And if someone is a little taken back by the roar of your lion, then they're not meant for you. Genuinely, like, it's Mercury retrograde anyway, and retrograde relationships, with Mercury and Venus together, especially again with Mercury fucking retrograde, this could bring back an old flame into the picture, which I don't know about y'all, but most always Mercury retrogrades, they come crawling back. No, this is a retrograde relationship, and I promise you, if you want to tap into it, it's gonna last the 3 weeks that Mercury is retrograde, and then once Mercury goes direct, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? So if an ex comes back into your life and wants to have a little fun, know that it will just be that fun. It is not something that is long lasting. It is not something that is sustainable unless they have legitimately changed their ways. You've changed whatever your issues were that was going on. Like, unless there is actual tangible change that is consistent, leave it alone. And again, Mars is here to add that touch of passion, to add that intensity, to add that drive. But thankfully, Saturn's aspect is here to pump the brakes, to make you remember to set some boundaries, to make sure you are clear, cut, and strict with those boundaries. And maybe, if anything, you will get some faded kind of karmic lessons from this transit of Mercury being with Venus, aspected by Saturn. If someone comes back into your life, maybe they're here just to teach you a lesson, to show you that you have changed and this person is still the fucking same. There are over 8 billion people in the world. Are you really gonna let someone's crusty child embarrass you and hurt your feelings and treat you like shit? Don't let your boyfriend get in the way of your husband. So next, once Venus moves through the first portion of this transit, which is Magha, the first part of Leo, it will move into the Phalgunis. So the Phalgunis, we're gonna talk about Purva and Uttara Phalguni in unison because they are intertwined throughout Indian mythology and lore. So Purva Phalguni takes place from 13 degrees and 20 minutes of Leo to 26 degrees and 40 minutes of Leo. And it is translated as the former red one. It is ruled by a deity called Ahriman. It's intimately associated with familial ties. Ahriman is the god of legal contracts, specifically marital contracts. This deity rules celebratory occasions and it bestows wealth. So think about when someone has a wedding, when they're getting married, usually they are showered with gifts from family and friends, celebrating. It's festive, it's fun, it's money. And Venus is gonna be transiting through this. So if you have any weddings coming up, symbol of this nakshatra is a marital bed, and it is associated with marriage and matchmaking. So this is the time to kind of get out there and try to find that person. Again, Venus is moving through the matchmaking placement. This deity is also known as the arranger, and they're called upon literally to find a husband for an unwed girl. So just saying, again, this transit is happening from August 11th to August 21st. Get out there and find you mans if you want. But specifically, this deity is called upon to find a husband for an unwed girl who has grown tired of attending other women's wedding ceremonies. I beg your fullest undiluted pardon. And this deity graces the newly wedded couple with union of heart and mind, which that is exactly what you want in a union. You want to be connected here and here, because if you're just connected down here, that's a good time, not a union. You know what I mean? In mythology, Purva Phalguni, the deity Ahriman, is associated with bounty that comes from family and family ties that sustains your daily life. So things that are passed from generation to generation, so think father to son, mother to daughter, things that will sustain you in your day-to-day coming. Financial support from family, financial support from your parents, from your in-laws, having, again, control in the family business. So very similar themes to Magha, but more associated with like money. This transit represents festivities, splendor, celebratory, being festive in nature. So if you get invited to any weddings during this time, expect to have a bomb time. This is the star who attracts an audience and finds you being doted on by others. Like, girl. This nakshatra is said to grant that happily ever after marriage, which, like, not me in my white dress. So that is Purva Phalguni, the former part of the bed. Uttara Phalguni is also still part of the marriage bed. And Uttara Phalguni is associated with a different deity. It takes place from 24 degrees and 40 minutes of Leo and then shifts over into 10 degrees and 0 minutes of Virgo. So this is one of those dual nakshatras. So it has the fiery energy of Leo and then it has that kind of cool, calculated, earthy energy of Virgo. The deity of this nakshatra is Magha, and he's the god who bestows wealth, which is the fruit or the result of the wedding. So in this story, the part of the marital bed, it's like you're being carried to your ceremony. The initial deity, Ahriman, is the one who's bringing the union together, who's finding you that partner, finding you that spouse. And now that you've found that spouse, these are the results, the fruits of that. So Venus is gonna slide on into this too, the fruits of this union, the fruits of this partnership in a financial way. So Magha means lucky share or financial allotment. Its ruling devata is surrounded with this air of majestic celebratory occasions. It is the deity of luck, wealth, inheritance, riches, good fortune, good tidings, and receiving a generous dowry. Again, Venus is moving through this. This deity you call on behalf of a spinster who needs a spouse. So if you're like older and you're like, fuck, I need to find someone, this later half of the transit is more for someone who's in their elder years, their twilight years, who you still want a little companion, you still want a little company, you've been doing your thing for your own for a bit, but now you maybe want to settle down, you want to find someone in your life. This is the deity who you call upon to make that happen. And through the Phalgunis, there is this sense of a happily ever after when it comes to relationships. There's a sense of destiny, this kind of fated quality to meeting the one, that special person. So any sort of union between two people, whether it's romantic or business, will feel fated, it'll feel karmic, it'll feel like this is your destiny, this is what's meant to be, this is your person, this is your romantic partner, this is your business partner, it's them, it's him, it's her, you know? And there's also an association with having a partnership that takes a few tries to get the hang of. So Mercury retrograde is tied into it. So if a partner does return like an ex back into your life, this definitely will be heightened during this transit through the Phalgunis, but make sure that they actually are committed to understanding what their wrongs were in the relationship, why it broke down. Make sure you're committed to understanding and acknowledging your role in the relationship breakdown, and that you are both committed to moving past it, so not holding any grudges, not holding any resentments, and then not only that, actively putting in the work to make sure you don't repeat those bad habits. You make sure you take steps in the opposite direction to sow seeds of union rather than discord, if you're going to enter a retrograde relationship, okay? Fine. So Venus in the Phalgunis, whose symbol is a fucking marriage bed, Venus is right at home. There's this implication of kind of taking it easy, a relaxed romantic situation that you happily allow to take its course. Imagine you're kind of on like a lazy river in your float, just letting the romantic partnership kind of carry you into this domestic bliss. And love is in the air, so embrace going with the flow, embrace being playful, embrace having these flirtations that feel really natural, that feel really organic, because that's what's going to be coming up during this transit. And luxuriate in the spontaneity of romance, luxuriate in the fact that you will just be doted upon through Magha, being spoiled, and then having this sense of meeting the one, meeting your partner through this transit. But again, it's a little techie because Mercury retrograde is coming into play. So just be mindful of any sort of miscommunications and misunderstanding. But it's a good thing that, again, Saturn is aspecting this, as well as passionate, action-driven Mars. Saturn will give you a kind of pump the brakes. Let's look at this from a bigger bird's eye POV. Take the steps to make sure that you set boundaries, that you're strict in your discipline when it comes to finding your person this summer. And Venus is also a planet of indulgence. Indulgence of a good time sometimes can be a bit too much. Maybe indulgence with drink or, you know, a little broccoli, because Venus is also a planet of drink and drugs. So make sure you don't overindulge, you don't step too much into that pleasure realm. And, you know, try not to get caught up in any sort of emotional romantic drama, because Venus, again, being in Leo, this dramatic sign, this constellation that literally represents artistry and putting on a fucking show with Venus there. Just make sure that you don't get caught up in any of the shenanigans. Use that wisdom that you're going to gain from Saturn to make sure that you see things with a clear, level head. So during the time when Venus moves from Purva Phalguni into Uttara Phalguni, Venus is going to be conjunct with the Sun. Girl, and these are planetary enemies. It's going to happen from August 17th to the 25th. So it's a short little, but imagine like being trapped in a house with a bitch you don't like. That's their fucking beef. Like, it goes back. I'm dead ass. So they don't like each other. The Sun is very like showy, in your face, me. While Venus is all about sharing and caring and unity and compassion and compromise. So thankfully, during this transit, Venus and the Sun will be at opposite ends of Leo. So Venus is able to express itself fully, and it's not going to feel eclipsed. It's not going to feel overwhelmed by the intensity of the Sun. The Sun will be there just kind of like a spotlight, just illuminating Venus in all of her glory and all of her beauty, and you will find yourself doubly the center of attention to receive that royal treatment, with the Sun being in its own constellation of Leo. The Sun is very, very, very happy in Leo. You're gonna be like, eating this up. Delicious. The Sun is hella at home in Leo. It is its own constellation. So the Sun is called Swara, she being here. And this will help to invoke that sense of confidence and self-worth within your romantic dealings. So try to take on this sense of knowing your self-worth from the Sun, using karmic and boundary setting Saturn to enforce really strictly discipline and boundaries in your romantic partnerships. Like, if someone is trying to be a bit too demanding of your time, no, especially since Saturn is all about work. And if you need to make coin, if you need to make money, and you have someone who's trying to date you who's fucking with your coin, absolutely not. Because my thing is, unless they're actively paying your bills, and even then, they don't demand your time. So if you're in a situation where someone's like, oh, I want to see you, but you're busy, and they get all whiny about it, absolutely not, okay? If they want to pay your bills for the next season, then they can occupy your time. Otherwise, say less. And with the Sun being a luminary planet, the Sun will help to illuminate any sort of romantic issues that may have been underlying / neglected / pushed to the side purposefully before this transit. It'll help you have a sense of tolerance and maybe even compromise and accepting responsibility for your role in situations, having a new light shed on whatever that discord may have been. Maybe even forgiveness can come into play. You know, be mindful. Don't just forgive someone for the sake of like forgiveness. I love holding a grudge. It's not even holding a grudge, but it's just like, who the fuck do you think you are to try to be disrespectful and rude and then think like, oh, just simply because you said sorry, that makes it better? Saying sorry is great and that's amazing, but there's also absolutely nothing wrong with being like, I accept your apology and I literally want nothing to do with you. And this union with Venus and the Sun could add this flair drama to any creative passions or pursuits that you have going on. Any creative endeavors will have this touch of passion and motivation from Mars, and then this strict discipline and hard work from Saturn, and then this Venusian beauty and charm, and then this Sun just kind of grandiose, in your face look at me type of energy. And if schedule conflicts arise where you are just having a hard time linking up with someone, don't take it personally. It's just part of the ecosystem of what's happening in the cosmos. Mercury retrograde is a bitch. Don't let it ruin your life. During this transit, it is mindful to not overthink a relationship because the Phalgunis have this sense of marriage, the one. Yes, that is very nice to embrace and to luxuriate in and to have this fantasy, but bring it back down to 2024 realities and try not to overthink anything. Try not to put too much pressure on any sort of romantic partnerships or any sort of things. Sometimes this union might just be a lesson for you to know like, this is how I show up in these circumstances. And that's fruitful because you can carry that with you to the next relationship to show up as a better version of yourself. And since there is this kind of over the top bombastic quality to this nakshatra, make sure that you appreciate the person standing before you and not the fantasy. Try not to future trip, like really see the person who is before you, especially Mercury retrograde. It's gonna cloud the intellect, your ability to think. Just make sure the person who you're seeing before you is really who the fuck they say they are. Okay. I had someone who was trying to pretend to be about that life with me. Turns out they were putting everything on their credit card and asking their sister for money. And then once the bill started piling up, they turned into a nasty little poor man. It was so unfortunate for them, not me. So come August 24th, Venus will move into the Virgo aspect of this nakshatra. We will be receiving Jupiter's aspect, which will bring about wisdom and expansive qualities, which means once Venus moves into Virgo, it will no longer be aspected by Saturn or Mars. So August 25th is when it's aspected and stabilized by Jupiter, but this will bring wisdom and clarity to all of your romantic interactions. This transit will also give you the confidence to ask someone out when you may have been a little bit shy before, but be mindful again to not get caught up in the fantasy. See this person for who they are, as your expectations may not always align with their reality. And you can make a more confident decision as to whether stay or go in that romantic situation. So my lovelies, that is what I have in store for you for this transit of Venus moving into Leo, moving through Magha, Purva Phalguni, and Uttara Phalguni. And if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, drop a lion emoji in the comment section to let me and others know that you made it all the way to the end. And I'll drop a little flame emoji in response as like a little, like I see you, I see you, I see you. But thank you so much. If you like this video, please be sure to like it, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you know whenever another video about cosmic tea drops into your feed. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you so much for watching, and